One, two. Oh, sorry, that one. I mean, they're all pretty good, so. You have to have a special clearance to be able to even approach the B-2 bomber at the hangar in Palmdale, which is in Lancaster. And I was fortunate enough to be able to go on a tour with a bunch of software engineers. It's super impressive, a lot bigger than you think in person.
Okay, that's quite an introduction. So I think we'll get started now. For the students here who don't know who I am, I'm Mr. Sonderback. I am the director of the College and Career Center here at Vista High School, and we have with us Alma King from Northrop Grumman, who grew up, if I remember correctly, around this area. And she's going to be talking to us about what it's like to be an engineer and kind of maybe a pathway you could think about coming from high school and what your next steps might be. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Ms. King, and take it away.
Thank you so much. You can see my screen, right? It's in presentation mode again.
It is
awesome, very good.
It's with the B-2 bomber still.
Is it? Oh.
So
okay, I might have to.
Yeah, I mean, I have to go out and then come back in.
I think so.
There better? We go. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And I'm very happy to be here. I grew up in Vista. I went to RBV High School a long time ago and graduated from there. And actually, I still live in Vista. So sometimes I look at the names and I wonder if there's any kids that I might know from kids of our friends of mine or whatnot. So we've been around. Vista's a great town to live in. I went to the local schools. I'll talk to you about the path that I took, but would love to get everyone excited about engineering in general. And the company I work for is pretty fantastic. So if we could see you all join the workforce and join Northrop Grumman someday, that would be amazing. I think that would, my job is successful then if I can get you all excited for that. All right. You'll see in the top right corner of this slide here is a picture of the Global Hawk, which is an unmanned aircraft, a UAV, unmanned air vehicle. And that's what's shown behind me in my virtual background. It's the virtual background. You can find it online. Just do a Google search of Global Hawk cutaway view. I've got a couple of these at my desk. Of course, I'm working virtually from home, but really, really fun to be a part of unmanned aircraft. And that was where I started my career, was on this program. And I'll talk to you more about it in just a moment. It's just an overview of this presentation. One thing about Northrop Grumman, we're a defense company, and that means that most of our customers are US military. We do have some customers that are foreign militaries. It's mostly US military. So If you notice on this slide at the bottom right-hand side, I actually have to go through a very rigorous process to get anything approved to present, especially if it has the name Northrop Grumman on it. So these slides were put together really more for a younger audience, middle school age, but a lot of the information in here, I will tell you that it wasn't information that I knew when I was in high school. So you're all, ninth grade to 12th grade or wherever you fall in there. I kind of feel like this still might be good information for you just in case, because I know that I didn't have it when I was your age. So about Northrop Grumman, careers in engineering, and then I'll talk about my own personal journey in getting here. Also, just a quick note, I've got a broken finger, and so on my right hand, and so I'm having to use my left hand, non-dominant hand, to do all the clicking today. Just hopefully I don't click too quickly or weird. Anyhow, so here's where I started off my career at Northrop Grumman, and I was there working on the Global Hawk. My degree is in mechanical engineering, and what I got to do right at the beginning was computer-aided design. And the company, I had some experience from college with the tools that we were using, but the company paid for additional training, and most tech companies will do that, especially if it's something that's very specific to this industry, to aircraft, and you're not going to always have those tools in college. But so that's fantastic, one thing to know for sure. And I got to work on the forward nacelle of the aircraft there, which is where the engine is housed, or the engine is housed just behind the nacelle. And after 6 years with Northrop Grumman, I decided to see what it would be like to work for a not strictly defense company. I went over to Pratt & Whitney, which was part of United Technologies, and they're still in San Diego. I've always stayed in San Diego, born and raised here, and San Diego's nice. While I was with Pratt & Whitney, I got to travel to different parts of the country. And I actually, at the end there, I was, my main customer, I was on the Brazilian Air Force aircraft there, that at the very bottom right corner, you can see a picture of Embraer's KC-390. So it's a military cargo airplane, huge jet plane there. And Pratt & Whitney, we provided the auxiliary power unit for these aircraft. And that was really fun, really exciting. Pratt & Whitney, United Technologies, great company to work for, but unfortunately they decided to close their San Diego office. And at the time I wasn't ready to leave San Diego. I still had a lot of family here, and my kids were still small, and it just wasn't the right time for our family to move. And so instead I went back to Northrop Grumman in San Diego, and actually got to be in management as coming back to Northrop Grumman, became a manager and supporting Global Hawk again for the Navy. So it's a different name for different customers. And then I actually most recently did get to support the B-2 stealth bomber, which was super cool. Most of the engineers that support the B-2 stealth bomber, which is that video that I was showing at the very beginning, most of them are in Oklahoma City. And but at the time they needed extra support. And so we had a small group of engineers in San Diego that got to support them in Oklahoma. And so I feel lucky that I got to do that, because it's not common for people in San Diego to be supporting B2. All right, so that's kind of just high level, like my career, kind of where I've been. Today, actually, I get to do something really cool. I'm a part of a team that is called technical development. And so we actually are trying to make sure that our engineers are trained. So you might think that you go to college and you learn everything you need to learn, and then you go to work and you use what you learned. Well, believe it or not, you're still always learning. And I think that's what's most exciting about being in engineering is that there's always new technology, there's always new tools, there are new ways to doing things. And so we need to make sure that all of our engineers have the right training to be up to date, to know the latest technology, to know and understand those latest tools. And so my current role now is I get to go back and help create curriculum, almost like a teacher, but not really, and get to help train the engineers now in depending on what the sector, what the company decides is the most important technology at the time. It changes, always changes. Also really quick, if you have any questions, please do type them in the chat so you don't forget them. I will have plenty of time for questions right at the end, so you can unmute yourselves then. But so I don't want you to forget your question while I'm talking, so please do type them in there. And then Mr. Slaughterback, you can help me, keep track of what the questions are. Thank you. All right, so like I mentioned earlier, these slides they have to be blessed by the company, and it's no joke. Even the attorneys get involved, and okay, let's see what these people are going to be presenting to the community. So this is kind of just the one that kind of goes with all of those presentations, and so I'll just read you the vision here. Our sector is called the Aeronautic Systems sector, and our vision is to be the most trusted provider of military aircraft, autonomous systems, and next generation surveillance, strike, and commercial solutions to preserve the freedom of our nation and its allies. So just a fancy way of saying that this is what we do. We provide very sophisticated systems, autonomous, and also command and control, all of the different things that surround it for our military customers. And Northrop Grumman, if you didn't already know, it's a large corporation. We have locations worldwide. I think last I checked, it's somewhere around 80,000 employees worldwide. And these are the 4 sectors that make up the company. The sector I belong to is called Aeronautic Systems. There's defense systems. We also have offices in San Diego that are part of the mission systems sector. And it's interesting because you may see Northrop Grumman, that sign and that logo on different offices in San Diego. And some people will ask me, oh, what about that office in near downtown or something? And that's not where we're at. We're in Rancho Bernardo. And then space systems, awesome, fantastic stuff going on at space systems. And most of them are located in Los Angeles. And now there's a big contract that was recently awarded to Northrop Grumman, and that it means it's a brand new facility, super awesome, lots of jobs. It's really cool technology that they're working on. That's all in Utah though. So it's one thing about aerospace, it's an industry that you need to be aware of the different locations and where the offices are located, where the businesses are located, and be okay with living there or be okay with being moved there if that is where your career takes you. All right, now more about the sector that I belong to, Aeronautic Systems. We also within our sector have these divisions, and the Global Hawk belongs to the Autonomous Systems division. We have advanced programs. Those are basically, so advanced programs are the brand new cutting edge, as it says here, next generation technology. And that's really cool stuff there. Actually, most often you have to have a top secret clearance to work on the advanced programs projects because it is so brand new. The technology has not been done before, and usually they're pursuing new contracts with new customers. And so a lot of that has to be kept a secret in order to protect the intellectual property of the company. And that's, intellectual property is just basically, that technology that belongs to the company. Every company has their IP, intellectual property, right? They don't want other companies to know, some of these things because of, well, it makes sense, right? If it's something brand new we're developing, we don't want the next company to know what that is. And then military aircraft, that's mostly done in Florida. And then Strike is a division that we have a large a group in San Diego as well. And this one is also top secret program that it exists, the contract is there, but I can't know anything about it because I'm not on that program. And even if I did, I couldn't tell you anything about it. Anyhow, just one thing to be aware of if you are interested in joining a company like Northrop Grumman. Typically you will need a clearance, and the clearances, a couple of requirements there, just in case you weren't aware, is, number one, you do need to have a US citizenship. And then number two, you've got to kind of have a clean life. So jail time, any drug abuse or financial issues in your past, those are probably going to keep you from getting a clearance. Not impossible, and it is a case-by-case thing, but still it's like think of it as like a super heavy duty background check. And so the government wants to know that they can trust you with their secrets, and because a lot of money is being put into these new technologies, and we want to make sure that no one can ever come and try to, can easily buy that off of you if you had that information. All right, and more about the sector. Lots of great things. So, kind of going down a little more and more detail here. And at Northrop Grumman, we've got, the two big categories here: tactical systems and strategic systems. And what we do in San Diego is, you've got the far left there, tactical surveillance, autonomous and optionally piloted. There is a vertical takeoff UAV called the Fire Scout. The coolest thing about the Fire Scout, besides the fact that it's a helicopter without a pilot, fully autonomous, is that we've been able to successfully land it on an aircraft carrier at sea, which is, hard enough to do for a pilot to do. Can you imagine the navigation and the control systems for getting that to happen successfully with an unmanned, and that's autonomous, means it's a mouse click and it does what it's programmed to do. It's not joystick controlled. And then also we've got the strategic systems under global surveillance. That's the Global Hawk there that you can see. It's a high altitude, long endurance, and it's basically a spy plane. So it's the one that's behind me in the virtual background, and it's just all avionics, infrared, electromagnetic, EOIR, which is electro-optical infrared technology to take imagery and send it back down to the ground station real time. And then the B2, as you saw, that's global strike. So a lot of really cool things that we get to do. And there's room for all types of engineers, just so you know. And this one, it's what I'd like to point out here is that basically to most likely to work at a company like Northrop Grumman, it's you have to have a college degree, and that's a bachelor's degree is at a minimum. So that's usually the first 4 years. I will say that engineering, because of the math intensive courses, typically it's very common for engineering degrees to take about 5 years to complete. And that's not a bad thing. I would not worry about that at all. The main thing is that you have a plan to get it done. Some people will have to take classes in the summer just to get caught up in a couple of math classes here or there. And but if you have a free summer, I would highly recommend that you go for an internship. And at Northrop Grumman, we do hire interns. And as you can imagine, interns don't typically have clearances. So it's a great opportunity to get an idea of what our work is like, and to get a feel for the company, the culture. And I have a lot more to say about internships that I will talk about in just a moment. So just let me step back a tiny bit and talk about engineering careers in general. And if you didn't, I didn't know what an engineer was until I got to college. And so in high school, I'm thinking back to where I was in high school, and I thought I was going to do something very different. But really, engineers, we solve problems, and we use math and science to do that. It's a practical application of all the math and science that we've learned to solve problems. And the problems are extremely varied. So you're not going to have the same problem to solve every day. Sometimes your problems are not completely technical. Sometimes it's a how-to problem, like how can I get this manufacturing of this part done so that it's consistent every single time. And so it's not necessarily how to create or invent a brand new material. It could just be how can we create this material to be consistent and the same every time. And then just different types of engineers. My degree was in mechanical. I chose that because I knew it could be versatile and would be applicable to many different industries. There's aerospace engineering. The one thing about getting a degree in aerospace engineering is I think that most folks who go and who study that degree are really excited about designing and building airplanes, right? That makes sense. And the one thing to keep in mind is that airplanes, they're not like cars. They're designed and developed almost like once in a lifetime. They're just very expensive and very, at least the military ones for sure. And so you're not going to always be designing brand new airplanes or building them even. You might just have a small piece of that, that process. And as you saw, the B-2 stealth bomber, the work that I was doing most recently was effort to modernize the bomber, because that airplane's been around for like 30 years. And so can you imagine some of the equipment is probably a little bit outdated. And so what I got to do is help be a part of the team that was modernizing that airplane. So that's just one thing to be aware of if you're considering a degree in aerospace engineering. Structural engineering, sometimes we hire structural engineers, but that's typically folks who are, really concerned with structures, static structures, I would say, but certainly we've hired them as well. Civil engineers, that's probably the one area that we don't really hire as much at Northrop Grumman, and civil engineers are typically involved with anything to do with humans. So like, city water treatment and road plans, we'll hire civil engineers. And then bioengineers, we're talking about biomedical equipment. There's, I think, a lot you can do with bioengineering. That is something that is super fascinating to me, because you're studying, bringing life sciences, biology together with the engineering that you learn. Electrical engineering and computer science. Now this is, just so you all know, this is an area that can be used in any industry. You would never ever need to find a job, I think, if you have a degree in electrical engineering or computer science, which those who have computer science degrees then are typically called software engineers when they join the workforce. So that's a really safe bet if any of you are considering engineering and don't really know which side of it. And then common traits of an engineer is, you do have to enjoy math and science. I would say you don't have to be like the best at math and science, you just have to be willing to work at it. And I say that because when you get to college, even if you're very good at math, which I always was, you get to college and you're going to have really tough math classes. No matter who you are, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be tough. So learning how to overcome that, learning how to, be okay with it not being easy is extremely important. So just be willing to work at it. Getting along well with others. As an engineer, we are always working in teams. We don't do anything by ourselves. We may have a small assignment that you do yourself and then bring it, but you've got to bring it back together with the rest of the team. We've got hundreds of engineers working on the Global Hawk, and then another set of 100 engineers or so working on the Navy version of the Global Hawk, which is called the Triton. And then we have a subset of those engineers also work on the Global Hawk that we provide to the NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in Europe. So it takes a team. You're always working in a team. And so you have to be willing to work with all kinds of people and be able to communicate with those people. And then solving problems. Like I said, problems every day. There's a different problem every day, right? I'm going to go through these slides really, really quick. This is, like I mentioned earlier, and because it's approved, I still keep it in here. I just go through, when I talk to the middle school students, I talk about, why you might consider going to college and then why study engineering. And I go through like a basic little monthly budget, basic, because if you take a look, it's very low. Food and groceries, if you were to live by yourself in a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. And by the way, I took these numbers a couple years ago from the apartments that are down the street from my house. And I'm here, actually live right by Civic Center in Vista. And so food and groceries, $300, that's really low. And that doesn't include going out to eat. And I love me some In-N-Out burger. And I love, that's another favorite. Oh my gosh. Yeah, In-N-Out's a good one. And then Rubio's is also another good one. Anyway, so what I did is I just tried to break it down. If you were to try to, afford this on a monthly budget, this is what you would get. Break that down a little further. Here's what you'd have to earn per hour. But there's a thing called taxes, and we all have to pay taxes, right? I mean, we want our schools to do well. We want our roads to be paved and do well. So I went to this calculator online, and you can check it out. And with this hourly wage, my annual salary would have to be $33,000 to be able to afford this very basic budget. But that doesn't include taxes. So if I need to bring home $33,000, then according to this calculator, I actually need to make $47,000, $47,500 annually. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right, so starting salaries. And there's a reason why I'm showing this information to you all. But this slide, I like to point out the difference between a bachelor's degree, a university degree, versus a vocational or technical school. Now, I am all for technical vocational schools because you're learning valuable skills, and those skills are a necessity. I mean, to be a paralegal, to be a medical assistant, to be an auto mechanic or a carpenter, a lot of times you have to go to a special school to be able to do those jobs. Those schools can be expensive. And you get a certificate at the end, which is great because it means you can go to an employer and say, hey, I know how to do this. I've got a certificate. But it doesn't translate to a degree, and you can't use that education towards any part of a degree. So just something to keep in mind. And here, this is something I took from glassdoor.com and then some of it from salary.com. I'm looking at average starting salaries. Okay, what is it going to take? What do I, what can I expect if I decide to work in retail for, for 10 years or so before I go back to school? And retail is the green line. It's the lowest one there. Yikes. Okay, well, here, so this is just a comparison, right? So if you take anything away from this, just know that please think about at least getting something more than high school, because I think high school, it's tough to find anything out there that's going to really, have you live the lifestyle that you want. And then here's that magic number from that previous slide, just so you know. If you want to live in that 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, you kind of want to be above this line. Okay, now I'm looking at engineering careers, engineering degrees, and here's the average starting salaries here. And very interesting, if you notice the top 2 lines, software engineering is the top, And then electrical engineering is the second one. So, and very versatile. We need them all the time. And at Northrop Grumman, we hire lots of electrical engineers, software engineers, a few, I know some chemical engineer folks, and they're fantastic. We don't hire civil engineers typically, at least not within our sector. And then aerospace engineers, we do hire aerospace, of course, and then mechanical. Cool. Okay, so I'll probably spend a lot of time on this one. Well, not a lot of time, but just kind of some things that I like to share with young people about getting that college degree. Right now, you're all in high school, and high school, it's extremely important to get good grades because that's going to help you get into the schools that you want to get into, right? It's oftentimes it's GPA, it's test scores. But the one thing I will say that we have some great opportunities here in North Costa College and Palomar College, and took everything that I could that would transfer. So, and then transferred to UCST. So if your grades are kind of not the best right now and you're concerned that you're not going to get into that four-year university right away, like you might want to, don't sweat it, right? What you need to do is focus on your grades, but also learn how you learn. Figure out what it is in your own brain that helps you learn. Is it listening to your instructor? Is it engaging and asking questions, or taking notes, handwriting your notes, or drawing pictures? There's so many different ways that everyone learns. The important thing is that you figure out what works for you so that when you get to college, whichever it is going to be, community college and or university, you'll be good, you'll be set, you'll know, okay, I have to attend the lecture because my notes, I study from my notes that I take from the lecture. And for me, I had to listen to the professor because it just was, I have to hear it to learn it. And so I would say that's super important, just knowing how you learn and then getting the good grades. Now, community college is fantastic. You're going to have smaller class sizes. You will have people on staff. They're ready to help you figure out what your plan needs to be in order to transfer. And when I was in school, the cool thing is there was a guaranteed admissions program to UCSD. You had to get good grades, of course, but the nice thing is that everything was mapped out. It told me exactly what to take, and everything that I did take transferred over. And so you don't want to waste your time, because time is money. School's not cheap, right? And community college is a lot less expensive than university. So if you're still figuring it out, that's even better, even more reason to do it something in a less expensive way, right? To try things out. If you're interested in business, or in, maybe you want to study philosophy or some other liberal arts type of degree, then that's great. Try it out at the community college and see what you think before you transfer. And it gets really, really expensive. One thing that I saw a few people do, a mistake that I saw people make, was, okay, so you decide that you're going to go to community college, you're living at home still, maybe your parents are nice enough to not make you pay rent, and classes are, no one forces you to go to class, they're not necessarily taking roll, or, just, it's a lot more, there's a lot more freedom, right? And then you decide you need a new car. Or maybe it's a used car, but it's new to you. And you go and you get that car, and now you have a car payment, because not everyone has a few $1,000s saved up to buy a brand new or used car in cash. So you probably have a car payment. Well, guess what? Now that car payment is more important than your school and your classes. And then now that Saturday morning class, first thing in the morning, yikes, it's so hard to get to class when I have to bus tables or be a waitress or whatever till like 11 o'clock on Friday nights. And just don't do it. Just don't do it. Wait until you finish school. Just, hitch rides with friends, take the bus. I mean, there's so many other things you can do. But anyway, that's just an example. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here. Not that getting a car is not a good thing, but keep the priority on your schooling. All right, and then university, I would say don't be afraid to go and check out, different scholarship opportunities. Get to know the folks at your financial aid office. Sometimes when you get to university, there are jobs on campus that you can take, and that's not necessarily part of the FAFSA, financial aid system, but it's still a nice way to have, get some extra money and still, be at school, be on campus. Internships. Now, I mentioned this earlier, we do hire interns at Northrop Grumman. And what I try to tell everyone is, that they're interns for the summer, approximately 3 months long, maybe 2.5 to 3 months long. And that internship, you must treat it as an interview because that's exactly what it is. Prior to the position that I have right now, I was a department manager, and we had a certain number of interns that we had to hire every summer. And so about 4 weeks into an internship, it was literally me asking all of my managers, okay, what's it like now? Are we going to invite these interns? Which ones are we going to invite back for an internship next year? Which one will we extend full-time offers to because they're at their last year of college? And which ones are we going to pass on altogether because it just isn't working out? So this is extremely important because we need to know, and it goes both ways. You need to know that the company is a good fit for you as well. And different companies have different cultures. So it could be that it's not a great fit. So that's okay. But if you want to stick with Northrop Grumman, it's all of those things I mentioned earlier, working well as a team, having a good attitude, being able to communicate. I will say that I had one summer, I had 2 interns and they were doing the same work, the 2 of them. It wasn't the most exciting work because they didn't have the clearances, of course, but it was the best we could do. And one of the young men, he kind of complained a bit. I knew that they were both not happy with the work that we were giving them to do. And the one that complained quite a bit, he didn't produce as much, didn't finish as much of the work as the other guy. And I had one spot for the following year to bring one back as an intern. And so can you guess who I invited back for the next year and who I did not invite back? So your attitude makes a big difference in just presenting yourself in a positive way. I'm not saying be fake, but but it's being professional, and you kind of have to learn how to do that in the work environment. So I'm gonna just this little statement at the bottom here, getting a degree with as little debt as possible, I think to me is a high priority. It's an interesting, so I bring that up because, now I told you all these good things, right? But then the hard way, I can tell you from experience, the hard way of getting a degree. And for me, I was in college, away at school, first in my family to leave home for college, first in my family to go to college. And I found out I was pregnant, and I took a detour in life at that time, and came back home. So I had left to cut my career at that university short and came home to rethink things. And I wasn't sure what the future would hold for me and the baby that I had, the little boy that I had. And I didn't know if I'd be a single mom for forever. And so that's why I bring up the salary information, because I didn't know much about engineering. I knew I needed to go back to school. I did some research. I had a lot of friends that were going into teaching, and they were about to start their teaching credential, which is an extra year. And I thought to myself, no, I don't want to spend an extra year. What can I do with a 4-year degree, a bachelor's degree, and still make a decent income to support myself and my son? I don't know if I will have to be a single mom for a very long time or what. And so it worked out. It worked out for me. I went into mechanical engineering. loved it. Actually ended up really enjoying my getting my degree. Loved UCSD. If you've ever been on that campus, it's huge. It's amazing. I encourage you to visit it if you can. It's in La Jolla, so not too far. Um, but so that was the route that I took, um, and the salary was an important part of that. And not to say that you should only consider that, but if for the path that I took, that was part of it. And in the end, I had a great time. I got to let's see. I did, while at UCSD, I got to work on some research assistantship. So I actually did not do any internships. I thought I was going to get my PhD in materials. And so that's a picture of me on the right-hand side, top corner, at a research conference, presenting some of my findings. And I loved it. It was great. That was like the first time I ever actually traveled outside of California, just or further, that was on the East Coast. I'd never been on the East Coast until then. And then anyhow, I'm happy to say that my then high school sweetheart stuck around, and we made it work. We've been married for 22 years, and I've got 3 awesome sons and now a daughter-in-law. And what's the coolest part about having achieved and completed my degree is that then my son, my oldest son, kind of followed in my footsteps, and he ended up attending UCSD, got his degree in computer science, and now he's a software engineer for an outfit of United Healthcare. So he's doing great. And it's just, if you're the first in your family also, like me, like I was, then it's like a domino effect. You kind of bring everyone else up with you. So I'm going to stop there. I know I've gone way over, but I have plenty of time, and I think Mr. Soderback, you said we had time, so I hope that's okay.
We have plenty of time, because this can extend as far as we need it to for this period. So did you want to move on to questions right now, or would you like to talk about some other stuff?
No, I'm happy to move on to questions.
Okay, let's take a look at our chat here and see what we have. Darylyn asked, how did you make your path through college? For example, paying for classes.
Well, the first thing you do need to do is do the FAFSA, the financial aid form. It's a free application, and everyone should be filling that out. I think you do that in the fall of your senior year. And that's going to basically, it's like federal financial aid, and it's going to kind of give you a number, and based on that number, it kind of tells you how much you might qualify for. So right off the bat, do that, and then your financial aid office of the university you decide to attend will reach out to you, and typically then you'll know what you're on the hook for. Interestingly, my son, I got a lot of financial aid, but my son couldn't get much financial aid at all. So paying for college for him meant that we did have to take some school loans out, and there's some great opportunities in very low interest school loans. So here's one piece of advice. Don't be afraid to take the loans out, but you need to kind of consider how much is your education going to cost you total versus how much your income is going to be. If you go to a private school, you could easily spend $100,000 to $150,000 on just your bachelor's degree. Does it make sense to spend that much on a degree if you're going to work for a nonprofit organization that can only pay you, $50,000 a year? That's tough. That's tough. I would say with engineering, it's a safe bet. If you know you're going to study engineering, your income's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. But now community college, it was back when I was at Maricosta, it was so inexpensive. I actually was able to pay, it was, financial aid and paying cash. I did still worked part-time, even when I had my son. And I did all kinds of odd jobs, tutoring, babysitting, anything I could take him to, I would do. So you find ways to do it. Just keep that in mind, though. If you're going to study, my son actually wanted to study literature, and then we thought, well, does that mean you'll become an English teacher, or even if you teach at a university, um, what's that income going to be like? And then he considered a school out of state. Out of state tuition is a lot more expensive than if you're in resident. So it was a tough call for him because he loves literature, but he also loves math and science. So it worked out well for him. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I think I think there's some of the students are going to have to leave at around 10 o'clock.
Okay.
So we're gonna come through here and take a couple more questions in the order that they were received, and then we'll have to wrap it up. So Lindsay asked, in your experience, what has been the hardest part of becoming an engineer?
Well, I certainly made life tough for myself. I don't recommend anyone have children while they're at university studying engineering. I could not afford to live on campus, and I could not afford to live near La Jolla. So I've always been in Vista. So commuting, 35 miles each way, just about every day was tough. The hardest part, I think, is just feeling like I didn't belong, because there aren't very many, I'm Mexican American, Latina, and there aren't very many of us on campus. It's a public university, so it's just huge. It's huge. And but I've been fortunate enough to find good friends, find the right study partners, and other women, other girlfriends that were there to help me out. Some of them Latina, some of them not, and that helped a lot. But that, I think, is the hardest, is just knowing that no one in my family could really help me with the experience, because they just didn't have that experience themselves. And then so overcoming that, you've heard the imposter syndrome, right? And then so just overcoming the idea that voice in the back of my head that might say that, oh, you're not good enough to be here. But I worked hard and got the grades. So
Okay, I'm gonna skip ahead because I think you've covered some of the other questions already.
cool.
Mason asked, what was the funnest part of your journey in becoming an engineer?
Engineering, you get to take some really, really cool classes, and some of them, means you get to have access to the machine shop on campus with all the best equipment. So I love creating and building, and so just getting to build something in the machine shop for the first time was awesome. That was great. Being able to use the wind tunnel, to do our labs and testing is super fun as well. You don't, as an engineer, I have access to some really cool technology, but I don't, unless I'm directly supporting and working on something that has to do with the wind tunnel or has to do with creating it, it doesn't happen very much. So that was really fun. And then I was a research assistant and got to, like I mentioned earlier, I had never been to the East Coast, and I got to present at Penn State University, which was an awesome campus. And that's where that photo is taken, right there. So that was really fun to be able to travel and meet new and different people.
Okay, so instructors, before we let her go today, do you guys have any questions yourself? Miss Short, Miss O'Neill? None? Wow, no extra points for you guys.
No, I think this is absolutely great. Thank you for doing this, and I'm hoping maybe now that we have like another contact at Northrop Grumman, maybe we can talk Northrop Grumman and start doing their high school innovation challenge again or something like that, because that is a greatly missed program here at Vista High that we used to participate in.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, and we would like to come down and take a look around if we can get the clearance one of these days, because I know some students, one of the best things is for them to actually be on site and to see what the environment is like, and as an engineer, as opposed to us just talking about it.
I agree.
All right, so we're gonna have to wrap it up now. I know Ms. Short's class and Mr. O'Neill, they've got to go and their students have to go as well. Thank you so much for spending time with our students today. I really appreciate it. I recorded this, so if we have students who are interested in becoming an engineer, they can come back and watch this at their leisure. But thank you so much for coming today, and thanks all the students here and instructors for bringing your kids in here too. And I hope this helps everyone gets an edge and understanding a little bit more about what engineering is like, that you can do it too.
Thanks for having me. And if there are any questions, if they can send them to you, Mr. Sauerbeck, and then you can feel free to send them my way. I'm happy to answer questions.
Yes, will do. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.